Hi, everybody. I'm Alyce-Kay Ruckelshaus from Threshold of Hineni, and today we are talking about Esther chapter 5, right? 5, yes. Sorry, I had to look at my Bible. Okay, Esther chapter 5. And first of all, let me just explain for anybody who is joining us for the first time, we are not going in depth in these talks about Esther. What we are doing is we're looking at one way that you could have devotions or quiet time, your time with the Lord, whatever you want to call it. And that is to read a chapter each day. And we're going through the book of Esther. So we're reading a chapter from the book of Esther each day and to ask 3 questions. The first one is, what did I learn about God from this chapter? The second is, what did I learn about myself? And the third is, how do I apply this? What am I going to do about what I've learned? Okay, so in chapter 5, well, first of all, in chapter 4, we've left Esther getting ready to go in and see the king. She has not been called to see him in 30 days, but she needs to go and plead for her people. So she has asked the Jews to pray for her and to fast for her for 3 days in preparation. If she goes into the king, the law is that she needs to be killed unless the king holds out his golden scepter saying, oh, hey, I'm glad to see you, kind of thing. Okay, otherwise she has no business going in without an invitation. So gulp. She's gone through her time of prayer and fasting and preparation. The Jews are still holding her up because they're, as far as they know, she's their only hope. Otherwise, they're all going to be massacred. And so she goes in and she steps into the inner room where the king is. Well, the king is delighted to see her and he holds out his golden scepter. And you better believe that God had something to do with that. Okay, so she goes and she touches the tip of the scepter and they exchange pleasantries and whatever. And he says, Esther, what's up? What do you want? I'll give you half my kingdom if that's what you want. And she says, what I want is for you and Haman to come to a banquet that I'm going to prepare for you. Well, you can imagine, besides the king thinking, oh, this is a great, cool date, right? Haman is ecstatic. He's going to have the privilege. He's the only person that's been told to come along with the king to this banquet that the queen is preparing. So he must really think that he's hot stuff. So Esther prepares this banquet, and the king and Haman come and they wine and dine and everything. And then the king asks her, Esther, what do you want? And she says, what I really want, and I'm sorry about that train, guys, but I've lived just like 3 blocks from the track. Um, Esther says, what I really want is for you and Haman to come to another banquet that I'm going to prepare for you tomorrow. And so, and then I'll tell you what it is that I want to ask of you. And so Haman at that point is just like, wow, I am really, really something because I'm being asked by the queen to come to a banquet with the king, and I'm the only other person besides the king that's being asked. So he goes and he heads home, and as he goes by the gate, there's Mordecai, and Mordecai does not bow to him. And in all of the pleasure that Haman is getting from this status, it's kind of ruined by the disrespect that he sees Mordecai paying him. So he goes home and he calls his wife and his friends and he tells them about all the wonderful things that have happened to him and how he has been um, noticed by the queen and honored by her and everything. And so he's bragging about all this, but he says the thing that ruins it is this Mordecai guy who won't bow down to me. And so they suggest to him that he build a really tall gallows and ask the king to have Mordecai hung on it the next day. And this is where we end this chapter. I will tell you something, guys. The Bible is not usually full of cliffhangers like this, and I really didn't notice this before because normally I don't read like a chapter at a time. I like to read the whole story at one time because it's not that long. It's 10 chapters, but they're not very long chapters. And I had never noticed before all the cliffhangers at the end of the chapters in this. I mean, can you imagine reading this book to your kids at night and you leave them at the end of the chapter not knowing what's going to happen? So anyway, that's the thing I hadn't noticed before, is that the Bible is full of, at least in the book of Esther, is full of cliffhangers. But that's not the important thing. That's neither here nor there. I just thought it was interesting. Anyway, so what did I learn about God? What did I learn about myself? And what am I going to do about that? Okay, first of all, my answer to this is going to be based on knowing the end of the story. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. As I've encouraged you, despite all the cliffhangers that are in here, I have encouraged you to go through and read the whole book, because there are so many insights that you get when you're reading the chapters if you already know what's going to happen. And you'll get all those surprises the first time that you read through. Okay, so, but the other thing, the other reason that I think that it's okay to know the end is because we know the end of what happens in life. Okay, we already have that last chapter that we've read. God wins. We know that regardless. Okay, well, it's the same thing in the book of Esther. God wins. God's people win. So we know that. So when we look at this really hopeless situation that Haman has been encouraged by Esther and built up by her, and that he's to the point now where he is going to ask for Mordecai to be killed the next morning, that looks pretty hopeless. I mean, first of all, the Jews are all going to be killed, but that's not going to be for a while. Now Mordecai is going to be killed. So this looks hopeless for him. But think about the effect that this has on the Jewish people too. He is the link between the queen and the Jewish people. So that link is very, very important. And it looks like Satan, working through Haman, is about to destroy that very important link. So we're left with this feeling of hopelessness. Okay, so what I'm taking from that is, as a person, what did I, well, first of all, what did I learn about God? I learned that God already knows the end and that he's going to take care of all of this. And in fact, he's going to use Mordecai's evil, I mean, not Mordecai, Haman's evil against himself in the end. The more evil Haman becomes, the more things Haman sets up, the more it's going to backfire and eat him. Okay, and that's one of the ways that God works, is he uses the things that evil people set up, and he uses them to actually end up punishing them and making things better for his people, for God's people. Okay, so what do I learn about myself in this? I learn, can I say two things? Even though I keep saying we're just looking for one. First of all, I learned the importance of knowing the end of the story. Okay, if I was reading this story and I didn't know the end, I would feel like, oh my goodness, oh, this is so horrible. Okay, and if I was going through it, it'd be even worse. And I go through things in my life and it feels like it is horrible. It feels like it's the worst thing that could possibly happen. It feels like it's going to destroy me. But I know the end of the story. And the fact that I know the end of the story is what helps me get through the hopeless times. Okay. So knowing the end of the story is important. The other answer, which kind of goes hand in hand with this, that I was going to say about what do I learn about myself, is that I need to remind myself of the end of the story, and I need to live according to the end of the story, not according to what I see right now. I need to live according to what I know is ultimately going to happen, and that's that God wins. And I need to have faith in that. I need to trust God in that, and I need to walk according to that. So what am I going to do about that? I've shared with you before in some of my books, I don't think that I've shared on these videos, that I believe in what I call memorial stones. There's a story in Joshua 4. I won't go into it right now, but you can read about it in Joshua 4, and then you'll know what I'm talking about memorial stones. But basically, memorial stones are things that I set out for myself a physical object to remind me of something that God has taught me, that I'm afraid I'm going to forget, that I know I need to be reminded of time and time again. And this is one of those things. So I'm going to come up with some way to remind myself of this truth, that I know the end of the story, that I need to not act according to what I see happening right now. I need to act according to what I know the end of the story is, and what needs to take place, what I need to do, what God's calling me to do at this moment towards the end of the story, not in panic mode trying to get myself out of whatever situation I'm in right now. All right, so I'm going to let you go with that. And I love you all. And I will see you again soon. Bye bye.